Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name once again is Kimi Itsekiri, and we are going to be discussing how to write a killer resume. So on my introduction, I currently work as a technical recruiter for a staffing company. So what we do is we do engineering search. It's an engineering search firm. So we hire engineers, technicians for the transit industry down here in the GTA. So on the site, I do have a business. It is called Dunamis Foods International. So for Dunamis Foods is an online platform whereby you could shop your groceries and have it delivered to your doorstep. I have a bachelor's in international studies and diplomacy from Nigeria, and then I have a master's degree at the University of Windsor in Canada. So the first thing we're going to be addressing today is what is a resume? A resume is a short document used to summarize a job seeker's experience and qualifications for a prospective employer. A resume includes the job seeker's contact details, work experiences, education, and relevant skills in support of a job application. Having an amazing and great resume is great for you. We do understand that we are in the period of the pandemic, and we know that a bunch of jobs have been lost during this period. So if you do already have an amazing resume, it gives you that sense of security going back into the work environment, not feeling insecure that you don't know what you're going to do next if you don't have a job the next minute. The next thing is the differences between a CV and a resume. So a CV is used mostly in Nigeria and other parts of the world, and a resume is used in Canada and in the United States. So a CV I've seen so far that it is overly comprehensive. It has your contact details. It also includes some people include your date of birth. They include their objective statement, volunteer experiences, work experiences, and they also include hobbies as well and extracurricular activities. On the other hand, a resume is short, it is clear, and it is concise. It includes just a brief overview of what you've done. It doesn't include your pictures, your date of birth, or any other thing like that. The next thing is CVs are normally 2 or more pages, which is perfectly okay, but a resume should be 1 or 2 pages long. Depending on the job you do, it could be up to 3 pages. That should be okay. So for the CV, it's always chronological in fashion, and it always comes in a fixed format. For resumes, we have different resume templates on Microsoft Word. You could always use varying formats for your resume, depending on your role and your job title and what you're trying to look for in the work environment. The next thing we're going to discuss is types of resumes. So we do have 4 different types of resumes. I will show you 2 of them and their examples as well. The first one
Kimi,
is,
sorry to stop you. I have messages from members saying they can't see the slide. So can you stop and probably reshare again? Let's see if they will get them.
Okay.
Sorry to have to cut her short, guys. Some people can't see the
That's
slide.
okay. So you can't see the slides at all?
I could see some others couldn't. So just reshare.
Can you see the slides now?
Can everyone see the slides now, please?
We were seeing it before.
Yes, we can see.
We can see it.
Okay.
They should slide right.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Please, let's mute our mics so that Kimi can resume.
So everybody can see the slides now?
Yeah, they can.
Okay. So we're going to continue with types of resumes. So we do have 4 different types of resumes that you can use for your job applications. The first one is the chronological resume. So for chronological resumes, they are the most frequently used setup resumes in Canada. They list work history based on sequential order, starting from your most recent down to your earliest work experiences. So chronological resumes are mostly preferred by employers because it shows them a brief snapshot of what you've done throughout your career. So this is a chronological resume. As we can see from the slide, it lists your first name and your last name. Your address comes next, or your contact details. You have your objective statement. You also see your work experience is up there as well. So it shows your date from where you started and when you currently ended, or if you're still currently working there. After that, we see the education, skills, and activities. Then your references can come down. You can just put references upon request. The next type of resume is the functional resume. So for the functional resumes, it focuses more on your skills and experiences first, as opposed to listing your work history. So this type of resume does not emphasize the dates in which you've worked. Employment history is normally secondary. And employment history is listed down below. So I'm going to show you an example. So this is a functional resume. So for this resume, you can see that your skills summary is there. You have your professional accomplishments, and then your work history is down. The reason why we're not highlighting work history or the dates that you've worked is because this resume is best suited for those people that have lapses in employment, or in the middle of a career change, or a recent college grad that does not have so much of work experience, or you're just one of those individuals that you're not sure what you want to do in your career at this point. Maybe you're trying to decide between business analysis or project manager opportunity. So you don't want the recruiter to know that you don't have that great experience, or you're changing careers from time to time. So most definitely use the functional resume if that's best suited to your situation. So the next thing we're going to discuss is the combination resume. So the combination resume lets you detail both your skills, experiences, and also showing your potential employer exactly your work history, the date and the month as well. Targeted resumes are the best resumes, I would say, to use. So targeted resumes are modified in detail to the potential job opportunity that you're trying to apply for, starting from your objective, your qualifications, to your educational experiences. They reflect the job requirements. A targeted resume is definitely more time consuming. I get it, but it produces the best results. And your resume for a targeted resume goes through an applicant tracking system easily, and you get interview calls. One thing I need to mention here is, in as much as you want to get in front of recruiters, do not over-exaggerate your skills and your highlights on your resume. Do not include something that you're not sure you would be able to do when asked during an interview. So an example would be, if I have a skill that I haven't used in 7 years or in 10 years, and the skill is listed on the job description, please do not include the skill if you cannot defend it. The next slide talks about sections of resume. So for sections of resume, the first thing that we see after your contact detail will be your objective statement. Objective statement is perfectly okay if you are just starting out in your career. It shows the recruiter exactly what you're trying to achieve and how you can be beneficial to the company. If you are a mid-level or an experienced professional, then you're more than welcome to skip your objective statement on your resume. I, for one, I have over 5 years of work experience in recruiting, and I no longer have an objective statement on my resume. Summary of qualification. Summary of qualification fits exactly the skills that you do have throughout the course of your career. You are more than welcome to have a summary of qualification as well if you're a newly graduated professional, or you can just have an objective statement and go down to your education and certification. Summary of qualification, I would say at every given point in time, use the job description in writing that out. Do not make up things that you do not know how to use or you're not familiar with. An example would be you are in tech support. So the first thing I would expect to see on a tech support resume would be adept in customer support or skilled in systems, troubleshooting, installation, and maintenance. Education and certification. As a fresh graduate, put that over after your objective statement. But if you are mid-level or a professional, 10 to 15 years of work experience, you're more than welcome to include that, let's say, at the end of your resume before your references come afterwards. So for your education and certification, you're more than welcome to take off the dates from it. It's not compulsory that you have your dates listed on there when you do write out your education and certification on your resume. The next thing is work experiences. So for work experiences, I would recommend do not try and cheat the system. If you've worked from 2016 to 2018, please include the dates, the month, and the year that you've worked. Oftentimes, I know people put 2016 to 2018. When they do that, they try and deceive the recruiters so that they're not aware that they have a lapse in between. An example would be, I worked from January 2016 to December 2018. And then I don't have a job, 2016 to January 2018. And then I don't have a job. I get my next employment in December of 2018. That's fine. I have a 10-month gap in between. So we try and cheat the system by not putting the exact month, but please put in the month. That way, we know exactly what you're doing and what gaps you have in between. So the next thing we're going to discuss is length of resume. So for your length of resume, everybody's resume is going to be different. Your resume tells your own professional story. My resume tells my own professional story. So for length of resume, I will give a perfect example. For one, I have 5 years of work experience doing exactly the same thing. So nobody expects my work experience or my resume to be over 2 pages. So my resume is within 2 pages. If you are a project manager and you worked for an example, Rogers Communication for 5 years, you move on to Bell, you work for Bell for 10 years, you have 15 years of work experience, and then you moved on to Shaw Communications or Cogeco. They're all in similar industry. So we are not expecting you to have 3 pages worth of resume because it's the same industry. So what I recommend is you list all the companies up the front and then you write your responsibilities afterwards. That way you can better put your resume in 2 pages. A different example would be you are a project manager for Bell Communication and you think that doesn't work for you anymore. You're trying to transition into finance. You're moving on to TD Bank or any of the banks here in Canada. So we know that in as much as you're a project manager, you're working on 2 separate projects. Afterwards, you move on to a food manufacturing company, a CPG company, that's fine. So you have 3 different experiences, but 3 different industries. So if your resume is more than 2 pages, up to 3 pages, that's fine. Nobody's going to fault you for that. But project managers do similar kind of work. So in as much as you have the varied backgrounds in different industries, try as much as possible to keep your resume to 2 pages. If you cannot, because you've worked on multiple projects in multiple industries, you are more than welcome to go up to 3 pages. The next thing we are going to discuss is buzzwords. So for buzzwords, these buzzwords are very important. You need to either use them in past tense or present tense. I know majority of the time when we are no longer working for a company, instead of using them in past tense, we still leave them with achieve, increase, increasing, or decreased, resolve. Every single buzzword that you have on your resume should all be in past tense. If you're no longer working for that company, if you're still working for the company, use present tense if you're looking for a different kind of employment. But your buzzwords should be gotten from the job description. Don't Google buzzwords and put them on your resume. So you need to pick a job description, pick multiple job descriptions in your field. If you are a business analyst, open 5 job descriptions on your laptop. See the common buzzwords on each of the job description and then add them on your resume. So the next thing we're going to discuss here is hard skills versus soft skills. I know majority of you guys are in tech. So if you are a tech professional, please focus more on your hard skills on your resume. I listed 2 of the hard skills on here, Python and Java. If you are not in tech, focus more on your soft skills. An example would be, I work as a recruiter and most people would want to see that I have effective communication skills on my resume. Nobody expects to see hard skills on my resume because I interact with candidates on a daily basis. So anybody interviewing me would want to know that, yes, I have effective communication skills. I could work on multiple projects at the time. I can train candidates. Things like that should be on my resume. But if you are in tech, once again, focus more on your hard skills on your resume. Definitely you can throw in 1, 2, or 3 of your soft skills. Everybody expects that you can work with people. People's skills is important because I don't think there's any work environment in Canada that you don't have to work with people. So people's skills is important. You can throw in on your resume one place or the other, or communication skills, creative thinking skills, any skills you find on the resume, throw in 1 or 2, but focus more on your hard skills if you're in tech. If you're not in tech, focus more on your soft skills. So the next thing we're going to be discussing is the importance of word choice. Word choices are very important. I can't stress this enough. The first thing would be have 3 to 4 bullet points. You can have more than 4 bullet points on your resume, but keep in mind that recruiters don't have time to go through every single bullet point that you have on your resume. So the shorter, the better. You're trying to sell yourself to the recruiter, not make them exhausted from reading 8 bullet points, 9 bullet points. They basically already know what you are doing as a, let's say, business analyst, project manager, IT tech support. So please reduce your bullet points to 3 or 4. The second thing would be stating your impact over your responsibilities. I know majority of the time we focus more on our responsibilities in the workplace. An example would be increased SEO algorithm. Instead of just writing that on your resume as one of your responsibilities, you could always say, increase the accuracy of search index by 20%. That way you're showing them an impact that you made while you were working for ABC company. The third thing will be use different action words. Once again, we just went through buzzwords. Please don't repeat. An example would be in using resolved 3 times, or using and 3 times, or using achieved 2 times, or increased 4 times. Please, as much as possible, change your buzzwords. Use as many buzzwords as you can, different buzzwords. Do not repeat your action words on your resume. The fourth point is quantify your impact statements wherever possible. An example would be if I train people on a quarterly basis, or training is part of my job description, as opposed to saying that trained contractors, I could always say trained 200 contractors in a monthly basis, quarterly basis, yearly basis. That way they know exactly what you're doing in a particular time frame. The next thing is avoid using personal pronouns. Do not have I achieved, I trained, I helped, or I developed. Don't do things like that on your resume. So avoid using I and we on your resume. An example would be, so let's say you are a developer. Instead of saying, I trained 2 or I onboarded 2 new developers, you could always say, onboarded 2 developers and mentored them during their first sprint. That way you're avoiding the I on your resume. So the last point here for the importance of word choice is omitting company summaries. I know majority of the time, if I'm working for a financial industry, most people put, so my company, TD Bank, we do finances, we do this, we do that. Your resume tells your own story. Do not have company summaries on your resume. You're not trying to sell your company to the recruiter. You're trying to sell yourself to the recruiter. So avoid company summaries at every single point. Do not have them on your resume. So the next thing we're going to discuss is tools for creating a resume. So tools for creating a resume, the first one is MS Word. Microsoft Word is very useful. So for this, if you go on your laptop, MS Word, we have different templates for creating resumes. I would recommend whatever format you choose to use, avoid the ones that have the picture side. Do not have resumes and put your pictures on them. So MS Word is a good one. The good thing with MS Word as well is when you're creating your resume, because you are using a job description in creating your resume, you could always right click and click on the synonym and just change some of the wordings. That's what I do on my resume. So I copy and paste the job description on my resume, and I just right click using synonyms, and then I change it. Secondly is Google Documents. So Google Documents is a good resource in creating your resume, but the only thing with Google Document is you need an active internet connection. So you cannot work offline if you do not have internet connection on Google Doc. The next one is resume builders. Resume builders are great. I just listed one on here, like resume.io. You can use resume builders in creating your resume if you want. They are excellent as well. Visual design tools like Adobe. Adobe is fantastic. If you are one of those people that want to create your resume from scratch, you want your professional highlights to be on the left, you want your work experience to be on the right, please feel free to use Adobe Illustrators to create your resume. Grammarly is very important. If you are looking for work, you need to have Grammarly installed on your computer, because spelling errors shows the recruiter that you didn't do your due diligence. If you have word choices on your resume and you have them all jumbled up together, it shows you're not a serious candidate. I know most of the time people don't pay attention and then they misspell some words, or they do things like, you know, some words that do have, instead of 2L, you put 1L, those things, no, try and avoid it. So if you're trying to get a job, please use Grammarly. Grammarly is very important. JobScan is a fantastic resource as well. So for JobScan actually scans your resume in making sure that it's going to go through an applicant tracking system. So an applicant tracking system we're going to discuss later on during this presentation. And so JobScan, you need to have that. Once you create your resume, please go on JobScan, scan your resume, making sure that it is going to go through any applicant tracking system once you apply online. So we are going to stop here for now. If you have any questions, please feel free and ask. We would take some questions now and then we can continue afterwards.
Okay, so we've come to the conclusion of the first part of the session, and I would ask that we maintain order as we decide to ask our questions. Like I stated, it would be good if we had a system. So I've seen a couple of people who say they want to ask questions on the chat. I would ask, the questions will be time boxed so that Kimi can address as many as possible. This question and answer session will run for about 15 minutes, and then we'll move to the second part of the presentation. Rita, could you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Rita.
Thanks. Kimi, thanks. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hello? Hello, Rita. Okay, she may be
lost her.
Yeah.
Hello?
Okay.
She needs to unmute herself.
Okay, you are back again. Rita, ask
I'm
your
unmuted.
question. Yeah, we can hear you, Rita. Go on.
Okay, yeah, so okay.
Yes.
So the 1 to 2 page resume that you were talking about, I heard you when you say, okay, if you're in the same industry, you can use what you should stick to 1 to 2 pages. But for someone like for me, for a business analyst, for example, you've worked on multiple projects, and you know, for some 2 or 3 different projects, they might not be, you might not have done exactly the same thing. How do we marry that information together? Because I have had so much information, say some opinions saying you have to list all your projects one by one. so that you show the different responsibilities you had in those projects versus you putting everything together, even if it was in the same organization, putting everything together and just listing maybe a generic list of responsibilities for your whole work experience. So I just wanted to find out what we can do in that case.
So how many years of work experience do you have?
I have about 10.
10,
Three
okay.
different,
So,
yeah, three different organizations, all in financial services.
okay. So in as much as you have different responsibilities, I know that a business analyst, they do basically similar kind of work, interacting with stakeholders. So I would recommend that you can put your resume up to 2.5 pages, 3 pages if you want, but there's a way that you can structure your resume. So you've been with 3 organizations, you said, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a way you can structure your resume in which you put the first company and then you put your responsibilities. If you only list 3 or 4 responsibilities that you've done, you shouldn't go more than 2 pages. Keep in mind that you're not just listing everything that you've done for them. You're trying to list out your impact, the impact you made while you were with that organization. So you don't have to put interacting with stakeholders. I feel like most recruiters already know what a business analyst does. Mm-hmm. So you can try as much as possible not to repeat your responsibilities, even if they're different. List 3 different responsibilities, or let's say 5 bullet points for the first company, 5 different bullet points for the next company, and 5 unique different points for the third company. That way you have 15 points all at once, and you are not being repetitive at the end of the day. So that's what I recommend you do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the next, Anne, you have a question? Please, Anne, could you unmute yourself?
Oh, hi. Thank you very much, Kimi. I have 2 questions, actually. The first question that I have, you talked about the using the objective statement on a resume. In my situation, and I'm like mid-level, and I'm looking at doing a career change from like one industry to the other. So my question is, would it be ideal then to use the objective statement when doing my resume?
Yes, because you're changing your career completely. And I would assume that the new career path that you're going into, you might not have work experience in that, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yes, so you should use an objective statement.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you. The other question that I have is, you talked about using JobScan. What is that?
So JobScan actually scans your resume. So so the next part of the presentation, we're going to be discussing an applicant tracking system. So you've tailored your resume to a particular job. So if you go on JobScan, it scans your resume in making sure that it is going to go through the applicant tracking system. Because once we apply for jobs, they don't get into the hands of recruiters, right? It goes through an ATS. It goes through an ATS. So JobScan lets you know if your resume is fit enough to go through an applicant tracking system.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's like an application, or?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you, Kimi.
You're welcome.
Next person, Mencino.
Hi, Kimi. Thank you for this presentation. I have 2 questions. The first one was answered by the first person. The question asked by the first person regarding the bullet points. So the second one is regarding the skill sets, if you want to put your hard skills. So at what point would you say, if someone has very little knowledge of, let's say, using an application, is this something he could put up, and is there a way to say, okay, I have little knowledge or something like that? Just because you might just need some knowledge about that particular application to get the job. So what would you advise someone to do in that scenario?
So I wouldn't recommend you let recruiters know that you have little knowledge on your resume. The first thing you want to do is get your foot into the door by getting an interview. So if they ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your Python skill? You can say, I'm 6, but I'm currently working on it and getting to an 8 or like a 9. So don't put it off the back of your resume and say you don't have so much experience using a particular skill. That is going to make them not want to hire you. So just list it on the resume if it's one of the important skills. And while you prepare for the interview, while you're waiting for the call, just do as much research as possible on that particular skill so you can answer the questions if necessary, if they ask you during the interview.
Okay, that works then for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Felix, you have a question? Hello? Can you?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Kimi, for the excellent presentation.
You're welcome.
I'm just wondering, like, if you're working in a company where you've occupied different positions, how do you represent that on the resume? What's the best way?
Okay, so you start off from the bottom. So let's say I work at ABC company. So what are some of your job roles at the company?
Okay, so you work as an accountant, for example, and then you move to maybe financial analyst, and then move to business analyst. So how do you?
Okay, so you write, let's say company ABC. If your current role is a business analyst, you write business analyst from February 2019 to present. You list 3 or 4 bullet points. Then you have an arrow down that shows the same company, right? You just change the job title, then you use, your next role was financial analyst. So you put 3 or 4 bullet points for financial analyst. Then you have an arrow down and you put accountant, and you put your responsibilities as an accountant, and you put the date and the month on the side.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Tochi, please, could you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi Kimi. Thank you for your lecture. What I want to ask is not really pertaining to resume per se. So when you were making your introduction, something piqued my interest when you talked about working in an engineering firm where I don't know if you could. Okay, I'm an engineer actually. I've been trying to transition into IT since, and hello.
I can hear you.
I wanted you to explain exactly what it is you do with your engineering firm. I just wanted to understand it better.
Tochi, there's some echo coming from your side. Sorry. Okay, go on.
Can you hear me?
Tochi? Yeah, so you want me to explain what I do on a, yes. So do you want me to explain what I do on a daily basis for work?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so because you're trying to transition from engineering to IT, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so basically what I do on a daily basis, we recruit engineers for the transit industry. So you can be mechanical, electrical, chemical engineer, depending on the clients that we do have. So we hire anybody from mechanical engineers, automotive engineers. It depends on what we do have at that point in time for work. So that's exactly what I do.
Okay, so all the engineers you hire all have their professional certification, right?
Yeah, majority of the time, because we are a search firm. So if a client is coming to us to hire engineers for them, we are definitely hiring those people that are licensed engineers. They have PhD.
Okay. Now and then, thank you very much. My second question, about resumes. How do people like us are transitioning from a particular industry to a different industry? Like I have certifications in IT now, but no experience. So how do you present your resume to make you because you are looking for roles that should have they've asked this particular kind of experience, this particular responsibilities. You just have the technical knowledge, but you don't have experience. So how do you present such resume?
So if you're trying to transition from being an engineer to IT, you have the technical knowledge, which is good. So all you just need to focus on is you need to focus on your transferable skills. You need to sit down and list out the skills that you do have as an engineer that you think you can transfer onto the IT field. In as much as you don't have work experience, I'm sure there's a way you can structure your resume to let them know that you can do the job that they're asking for.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so there are no more questions to be asked. So we will now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the second part of the presentation. So Kimi, please, over to you to continue.
Okay. So the next part of the presentation is going to focus on handling common hurdles while you're looking for work. The first thing here is Canadian work experience. I know that majority of the time when we move from Nigeria or any part of the world to Canada, we have a myth in our mind letting us know that since we don't have Canadian work experience, nobody's willing to hire us. One thing I would say is whatever experience you came down here with can be very beneficial. All you need to do is have a well written out resume, speak with confidence, even if you don't know so much on the job at this point, because you have never worked in Canada, just know that you can do the job. Never downplay or downgrade your Nigerian work experience so that you can find a job here. I know for a fact that most companies hire people from Nigeria. A friend of mine just came into Canada in January, in the winter, as an IT professional. She works downtown, and she was actually hired from Nigeria down here. So keep in mind that in as much as you might have not worked here before, as long as you can do the job, you have experience. No company is going to bring you on and not train you. So whatever they put on their job description, go into the interview, present yourself in a very good light, and know that they're going to train you. As long as you have the skills and you're not lying, you should be okay. The next hurdle is tips for college grad and early career people. I know that once we finish school, we have the mindset that, oh, I don't have any work experience, nobody's going to hire me. So at this point, I recommend you leverage your internships, leverage your volunteer work experiences, and then your actual work experiences, if you have any. I would always say, add an objective if you are a college grad. I would always say, add an objective if you are a college grad. So how to tackle long gaps on your resume. So an example would be you haven't worked in 3 months, you haven't worked in 6 months. I would say focus on what you did during that period. I know because it is COVID-19 season, a lot of jobs have been lost during this period. What are you doing to keep busy? Are you just sitting down and not actually doing something to improve on your skills? I know lynda.com is very useful. I currently study on lynda.com. I've taken a couple courses during this period because I have some spare time. If you have a library card, you could access lynda.com for free, or you could always pay for it. Do not have anything you're doing when you are not working. It looks bad on your resume for starters, and it looks bad on the recruiter when they're trying to hire you. They feel like you don't know what you're doing. So if you decided that you're going back to the workforce, I did a consulting project for a couple of years before I went back to the workforce. On my resume, I have consulting projects listed on my resume. So if a recruiter calls me up tomorrow, I can defend why I have that 3 years or 4 years in between my work experiences, because I was consulting for smaller businesses. The next thing is how to handle a career change. Making a career change is not easy, but there's always a way to structure your resume in the best light. You have to focus on your transferable skills. I just answered Tochi's question on that. You need to focus on what you've done at your current career and what you're transitioning to. The company needs to know that you've previously accomplished some of their objectives wherever you're coming from. You might not have work experience in that particular field, but sure you have transferable skills that you can bring onto your next role. Managing long-term employment. For long-term employment, so the next thing is tips for job hoppers. So for tips for job hoppers, I would say that a functional resume is your best bet if you are hopping from one job to a different job. I know majority of the time we want to get to CEO position in 5 years or in 10 years. That's not going to work. Recruiters don't like to hire people that are not stable. If you do 1 year on this job, you do 1 year on another job, you do 6 months here, you do 6 months there, please use a functional resume. Do not use a chronological style of resume because it portrays your resume in a bad light. Use a functional resume. That way, all your work history is listed at the bottom. The recruiter must have seen your accomplishments, your objective, your summary of qualifications before they get to your job hopping. I would recommend you stay on the job for maximum 2 years, 3 years, before you decide to move from one job to the next. Managing long-term unemployment. So for this, I would say, if you've not had a job for 5 months, 6 months, 10 months, it gets really frustrating to go back to the workforce. And at that point, we think, I'm just going to get anything that comes my way. I don't care anymore. What I would say is, hang in there. Job searching is tasking, is time consuming, but you would get there. Stay confident in the meantime. While you're job searching as well, add volunteer work experience. If you went back to school, continuing education, add that on your resume. Working as a consultant, add consulting projects on your resume. Add achievements as well that you've gone through in the past 10 months that you're not working. This section is not a nice to have. It is a must have. You must have these sections on your resume if you have been unemployed for longer than 6 months. For people that are not currently working for a very long time, I would also say that focus on networking and getting personal referrals to land you a job. Attend networking events. You need to go out there, present yourself, let them know that you're open, get referrals from people. That way, you can easily transition back to the work environment. So we're going to discuss best practices for using a resume. So for best practices, the first thing is resumes and online applications. I would say quality over quantity, any day, anytime. I don't expect you to have one resume and use one resume to apply to 5 jobs or 10 positions. No. You need to take out time, pick out the job description you're planning to apply for, and then tailor your resume to that particular job every single time. You need to do that. Do not use one resume for 5 positions. It looks really bad. Secondly, do not apply to 5 jobs, different positions in one company. It doesn't tell well of you as a candidate. So I know that most of the time some business analysts can do project management as well because they have the transferable skills. So don't apply to ABC company as a business analyst this week. The next week you apply to ABC company as a project manager, and the upper week you apply to ABC company as an information technology analyst. No, don't do that. Focus on one career path and save all your resumes on a PDF folder on your laptop with the company's name as well. That way, if a recruiter calls you for an interview, you can better quickly just go there, pick out the job description, and then go through your interview questions. The next thing is how to use a resume during an interview. This one is pretty basic. You're more than welcome to have your resume in front of you when you do an in-person interview or over the phone interview or Skype interview. Whatever form of interview you're doing, you can have your resume in front of you. All I would ask is know exactly what is on your resume. Because if you write something on your resume that you cannot defend, it looks bad on you at the end of the day. I'll share an experience with you. When I recently came out of school, sometime in 2013, 2014, thereabouts, I know a recruiter had called me for a role. So I had project management skills on my resume. I had no work experience. I was a newly grad. So the recruiter asked me, so if you say you have project management skills on one of your summary of qualifications, when have you used that skill? I couldn't even defend myself. I couldn't answer it. That's why I always say, whatever you put on your resume, make sure you can defend it. Because if I, as a recruiter, have called you for an interview, I already do like you. I like your resume. I like what I see. Most of the time, we don't move on to the next level because we cannot defend what is on our resume, and that looks really bad. Thirdly is resumes and networking. So for resumes and networking, do not have hard copies of your resumes while attending networking events. I don't expect you to be handing out hard copy of your resumes at networking events because I don't think anybody's going to read it, maybe one or two. You are there for a reason. You're there to build relationships. You already do have your resume in your mind, I would say. So use your resume as a roadmap. As you're talking to potential recruiters, tell them what you've done in the past. Tell them where you're planning on going to. Tell them exactly what career you're searching for. Collect their cards. Build that relationship. Add them on LinkedIn. Send them an email afterwards. Follow up. And then you could send them an email attachment with your resume. Once again, do not have paper copies of your resumes and handing them out in networking events. You are there to build relationships, not handing paper copies of your resume. Job hunting sites. For job hunting sites, I would say, whatever you have on your resume should tally with what you have on your LinkedIn profile. Because the first thing that a recruiter would do is to go on your LinkedIn profile. My personal example, I was trying to transition from, because I started off doing customer service before I got into HR after school. So I had something completely different on my resume. My LinkedIn profile was saying something different. On a weekly basis, 5 recruiters will view my LinkedIn profile, but I never got a call because my resume was saying something different. My LinkedIn profile was saying something completely different. So please have similar story on your resume and your LinkedIn profile. You need to manage your online presence. These days, we're in the 21st century. Online is very important. If I Google you as an applicant, what is going to come up? Do you have things that you are not supposed to have online? In as much as it's your personal space, just make it as clean as possible. Clean up your LinkedIn profile. Secondly, there's a tab on your LinkedIn profile that says open to recruiters. I have that tab open as well. I am not currently looking for work. I have it open because I want to see what is always out there. When recruiters contact me, I want to know exactly what company is hiring, what they're hiring for, how much the pay is it good for my career? Have that open on your LinkedIn profile. Your current employer does not know that that is open. Mine is open. I get calls all the time, but I'm still on my current job. So please have that box checked on your LinkedIn profile, letting recruiters know that you're open to opportunities, even if you're not currently looking at this point. You always want to stay relevant and know what is going on in the job market. So we also have Indeed. Indeed is very good. You can post your resume on Indeed if you would like. You're more than welcome to do that. I always search on Indeed database if I'm looking for a specific skill set for work. So I go on my Indeed account and I search for candidates that have resumes on there. I would normally call them first before I call anybody that does apply to my job posting on Indeed. So have your Indeed profile set up. If you want to do that, use Indeed to search for jobs. Also use Monster, use Glassdoor as well. The last thing on this slide is standing out from the crowd. Having a great resume is fantastic, but what is going to make you stand out from the crowd? Why do you think you would be different from any other person out there? In as much as you've gone through the interview process, you need to send out thank you emails afterwards. That is very important. I know majority of the time we always say recruiters are too busy, they don't answer, they don't get back to us. So if you have that mindset, yeah, that's not good. So please send thank you emails to recruiters, letting them know that you appreciate their time, the using going through your resume, and whatever you think you might have forgotten during an interview, that is the best time for you to reiterate it in the email so the recruiters know that you are overly interested in the role, and then you can get a call back from them. So we're going to be moving on to an applicant tracking system. So this is where the job scan that I mentioned earlier falls under. So an applicant tracking system is a software that provides recruiting and hiring tools to companies. So among other functions, these systems collect and sort out thousands of resumes. When you do apply for work online, your resume isn't typically handed on to a recruiter or the hiring manager. It's first being processed by an applicant tracking system. Whether that human recruiter ever sees your resume could depend on how well your resume passes through an ATS algorithms. ATS analyzes the content of your resume to allow recruiters to search for keywords. I know some ATS automatically ranks your resume. I know for one, the one that we use at work ranks your resume based on keywords that we have on our job posting. So these are ways that an applicant tracking system can work. There are different types of applicant tracking system. I just listed a few here. So Bullhorn, Salesforce, Taleo, Greenhouse, ICIMS. So these are different types of applicant tracking systems that companies use when you send in your resumes to them. So the next thing is how to get your resume through an applicant tracking system. This is very important. This is where the work actually does come in. I know we complain as job seekers. I've sent out 20 resumes. I'm not getting any calls. So I'm going to explain how to get your resume through an applicant tracking system. The first thing is job title. So for job title, you can use job titles interchangeably, and that is perfectly okay. So I work as a technical recruiter. So I find a job for talent acquisition specialist. I want to apply for a talent acquisition specialist role. I can change my job title on my resume from technical recruiter to talent acquisition specialist. That's perfectly fine because they do similar kind of work. The difference is you might be working for a search firm as opposed to working for the company directly. But a recruiter does similar kind of work. You can call it talent acquisition specialist. You can call it HR recruiter. They can call it technical recruiter. Whatever name they have on their job description, make sure that that job title is on your resume as well. If they are looking for a project manager, you are a project lead for a previous company, or you've managed projects in the past, but your job title is just different, you're more than welcome to change it to a project manager because they need to see that you have that job title on your resume. If not, it wouldn't go through an applicant tracking system. The second thing is hard skills. We've talked about hard skills previously. So for hard skills, you need to match the hard skills on the job description, handpick them on your resume. If you do not have the hard skills on your resume wouldn't rank. So an example would be, we use Salesforce at work. So when the resumes come through, on the side of the applicant tracking system, it ranks it. It says, let's say, give and take, project management. It says project management, 80%. It says business analysis. It says 20%. It says tech support. It says 50%. That is how the Salesforce that we use work. So if you don't have hard skills, if you don't have Python, if you don't have Java, if you don't have some of the hard skills on the job description, your resume wouldn't go through an applicant tracking system. Match the job description once again. Like I mentioned, whatever you're doing at your current workplace, your previous workplace, as long as you can do the job, what's on their job description. I know most of the time, HR professionals write out job description. They word it in a way that you feel you might not be able to do the job. A project manager is a project manager. They might use different terminologies. Once again, copy and paste the job description on your resume, and then use the Word document, right click, go on synonyms, change some of the words so it doesn't look like you copied and pasted their job description on your resume. The next thing is avoid using tables columns, headers, and footers on your resume. Do not have tables, columns, headers, and footers on your resume. It wouldn't go through an ATS system at all. I am a human recruiter, so I can afford to read your resume. But because it's a system, there would be glitches along the line. So do not use tables, columns, headers, and footers on your resume. Use standard headings. When I say standard headings, for example, work experience. So just write simply work experience and list out your work experiences. Do not write where I've worked or where I've been. I know some people try to be slicky and trendy. No, your resume is a professional property. Do not be trendy with it. So use standard headings. ATS formatting mistakes. One mistake we make is abbreviations and acronyms. Yes, we know that MBA is Masters of Business Administration. The job description clearly says Masters of Business Administration. Do not put MBA on your resume. You can have MBA, list it out in full. Or you say Bachelor of Science, Computer Science, CS. I know CS is computer science. The applicant tracking system, once again, is not human. It might not be programmed to know that CS is computer science. So avoid abbreviations, avoid acronyms. Secondly, avoid tables. Do not have tables on your resume. I'm going to show you an example of a resume that you shouldn't have. So this resume does have tables. You can see that this candidate listed their technical skills in a tabular format. So it has Salesforce, Sales Cloud, it has G Suite of Microsoft Office, and then puts their contact details all the way down at the back. So this is the kind of resume that you don't want. So you don't want to have tables on your resume. You don't want to have your contact details all the way at the back, okay? The next thing is non-standard bullet points. I find it hard that some people don't have bullet points on their resume. There are a bunch of bullet points. You just use the standard one. Do not try and customize and use fancy bullet points. Always use the standard bullet points on your resume. Always bullet point your job responsibilities at your current workplace and at your previous workplace. And the next thing is unique fonts. I know we have different kind of fonts on Microsoft Word. The two most commonly used fonts that passes through ATS every single time, Times New Roman and Arial. Don't use the other fancy ones like Columbia, Helvetica. Don't use those ones. Use Times New Roman and Arial any single time that you try and work on your resume. The last thing we're going to talk about is unprofessional file name. Do not save your resume as an example, Kimi Itsekiri. I put K Itsekiri for my resume document. No, do not do that. I would always save my resume as Kimi _ Itsekiri and save it most of the time in PDF format. Except PDF is not accepted, you could use Microsoft Word. So do not save your resume in an unprofessional file name. Don't ever do that. So at this point, once again, this is a sample resume that you shouldn't use. Do not have tables. This bullet point is fine. Do not list your contact information all the way at the back and have your address on the right. So this is something you shouldn't do. A one-page resume like this looks great, but there are other formats on MS Word that you could choose that will better structure your resume without it being this way. So at this point, we've come to the end of the presentation. Thank you for your time. And do you have any more questions? We can continue from there.
Wow. Very, very informative session. Thank you, Kimi. As always, we have a couple of people who want to ask questions. So we'll quickly take those questions before anything else. AY, can you please unmute your mic and ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much. And Kimi, thank you for that awesome presentation. My question has been answered anyway. Yes. and you've repeated it many times, do not use tables. So I wanted to ask that, what do you think about using of tables? But you've addressed that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, just Oluwabenga. Oluwabenga, please, can you mute your mic? Or mute your mic, rather.
Thank you. Hi, Kimi.
Hi.
Thank you for this wonderful session. I just have one question. You've answered the rest of my questions. What's your view about LinkedIn Premier?
So LinkedIn Premium is a great resource if you're looking for work. I know that the job market is pretty competitive at this point. I know for when I'm on LinkedIn every day, and I know that employers post jobs, and after 2 hours, they have over 100 applications. So LinkedIn Premium, yes, if you can pay for that while you're job searching, that will be great. That way you see how you stand out from other applicants. You need to know exactly what they have that you might not have, that you need to at least improve upon while you keep job hunting. So yes, I recommend you have LinkedIn Premium if you're job hunting.
And I have one more. Thank you for that. Just one more, please. You talked about job offers. I kind of fall into that category somewhat, but I don't know if you categorize me as a job offer if I had done minimum of 2 years in every company I've been with, and I've done that like 3 times, and I did 3.5 years with another company. So to bring the point to this present moment, my current job, I came in and I got a job in 2 months after I got a job. After I came in 2 months, I got a job in 2 months after, and I've had another offer 3 months on that job. So going to the 10th month on the job right now, I'm getting another offer. What would you recommend? Should I go or I should wait a little bit more?
Okay. So are you getting offers in the same line of work? Is it the same thing that you're doing?
Yes, please.
Okay. So if it's similar, you're probably getting offers and you're getting more money, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So I would say that decision is up to you at the end of the day. It's based on your financial situation. I wouldn't say you shouldn't take a job if it's going to offer you more leeway financially. If that's what's best for you at that point, you're more than welcome to do that. But keep in mind that it doesn't tell well on your resume and on recruiters. It just shows instability. But if you're struggling financially, for sure, why not? You should take it. And you can afford to rebuild your resume afterwards, after you are more settled financially. So it depends. So if you feel like you can weather the storm, if you're doing the same kind of work but just more money, but you need the extra cash at this point, definitely you should jump on it.
Okay, thank you. If I get you right, what you just said is if finances is not the challenge, if long term is the goal, it's better to just wait and weather the storm.
Yes, if finances wouldn't be a problem, it's just easier to weather the storm, stay 1 year, stay 2 years, because I know that when I started my job, I saw a different opportunity. It was fantastic. And the first question the recruiter asked me was, oh, you've only been with this company for 6 months. Why are you looking for something else? And I started defending myself. It's more responsibilities, it's more this, it's more that. That shows that if they hire me on that job, I am going to leave after 3 months, after 6 months for something else. So, like I said, it's based on your financial situation. If it's the same work, if it's not something higher, it's like doing project management to project management. So if it's not something different, entirely different, I don't think you should keep hopping after 2 months or 3 months. Build some form of stability before you leave. But if you have financial challenges, for sure you should take it.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
we do have a couple of questions coming in. Akinwole Olajide, please, can you unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, thank you, Kimi. I have two questions.
Okay.
The first question is, if you are in a position and you're looking for a management role, so maybe you for my own case now, I've been in an individual contributor role for a while, but then I want to transition for a management role, and the management role that I qualify for, that based on my level, is a director level. So how do I position my resume and my skill to take off such position, a director level, when we are looking at the fact that I've been an individual contributor for a very long time, and I don't have anybody that I've ever managed all through my career. So how do I position myself to take advantage of that position? The second question is, if we have been working, as a full-time employee, then you transition to a contractor, you do some contracts on the side for maybe 6 months, 1 year, and you go back to full-time employee. How do you explain such a transition when you go for an interview and they ask you, oh, you were once a full-timer, then you went on to become a contractor, then you come back to you become a full-time employee again? How do you transition? How do you explain that to a recruiter?
Okay, so I'll start off with your second question. So the second question is, you've been a full-time employee for a while and then you decided to take on a contract role, correct? And then you are going back on full-time employment, right? So you could always tell the recruiter that your family situation became different. I know most of the time we take full-time opportunities based on our family needs at that point. So full-time and contract, they both work give and take. They work 9 to 5, the same hours. The only difference is for contract workers, you guys get paid a little bit higher than full-time workers because you don't have the benefits and whatnot. If you have a spouse, you can always say that you didn't need the benefits that comes with the full-time employment. You needed the flexibility that comes with the contract role. It depends on your contract role as well. If your contract role was more of you're working from home, you let them know that you liked working from home. Or the full-time work was you needed to be in the office on a daily basis. So for this, you need to answer the question based on your situation. So I can't really say how you can answer that. Like I said, there are different ways you can answer that. For me, I did consulting projects for a while before I went back to full-time employment. So when the recruiter asked me, I just let her know that I've been doing consulting for a while, but now I'm more ready for a much more stable work because I need to be stable. I need to raise a family. It depends on what your situation is, honestly. And your other question was, you don't have managerial experience, but you want to apply for a managerial role, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
We've been an individual contributor for the longest time. So this role that you want to apply for, do you know how many people you would be managing?
Generally, you have at least 5 to 7 people at least to manage as a director.
Okay, so you have 5 to 6 to 7 people you can manage. Okay, so aside from work, do you do any extracurricular activities? Do you volunteer?
Since they're not, you see what? They're not working for you now. That's usually from school depot. And they're not pocket. This guy told me that the ones that they did in the other places, they just mess the floor up like
Sorry. Somebody's mic is unmuted. Sorry for that. Kimi, I believe you are done addressing the previous question, so we'll just move to. Are you?
No, I wasn't done. No, I was trying to answer the second question.
Okay, so please just speed it up a bit. We have a lot of people asking questions.
Benga, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, so I was asking, do you volunteer outside of work? Do you do any extracurricular activities apart from a 9 to 5?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I have.
Okay, so even if you don't have work experience, managing a team. As long as you know you can manage a team and you've done it previously, it doesn't have to be work related. So let's say you can always say you manage a team of 3 to 4 people while you were in school. If you volunteer at church, you could always say that you lead a team of 10 to 20 people at church, or you teach at church, or you do something, or you volunteer at a soup kitchen. So volunteer experience will be best for you at this point. Or if you have work experience, you don't have work experience. So if you have project work experience while you were in school, you could always leverage that as well. That would be your best selling point.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anaya, please could you unmute your mic and ask your question?
Okay. Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, Kimi. Thanks for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. I want to try and get what you said about representing the gaps in between your jobs. Like, for example, for my own case, when I landed in Canada, I was searching for I was off work for few months.
Okay.
But I was involved in some trainings. I went for some trainings just to keep myself busy. So how should I capture, if I did a training for 3 months, how should I capture it in my resume to reflect that period of time that I did the training?
Okay, so after the training for 3 months, did you get a job afterwards?
Yeah, I got a job, but not in that particular field, in something else.
Okay.
Different field altogether, yeah.
Okay, so the best possible way to capture that is to write whatever you're doing now. And then when you go on training, you can always put training, certifications, education. So I would always recommend put it under education/certification.
Okay.
Yeah, put it under education and certification. And the best way is to sell yourself when you're doing the interview. If a recruiter asks you, what have you been doing the past 3 months that you didn't have a job, put it there as well. If you have a cover letter, your cover letter tells your story the best. So I always recommend people to have cover letters while they're applying for work. That way you could tell them exactly how you have been spending your time as you're not working. So put it under education and certification, or I have professional development on my resume. You could use professional development as well.
Okay, okay, yeah. Thanks. The second question is, on LinkedIn, I've had a couple of invites from recruiters for different roles in the US. So, but I don't know if it's right, but I've been turning them down because of my current status in Canada. So once I respond to them, I try to keep an open relationship just to let them know that I thank them for contacting me, but I also tell them that I can't work in the US because of my current status. So I just want to confirm if that's the right response to those recruiters.
Yes, I know most of the time you can only work in the US if you are a Canadian citizen. So even if you have PR, you still need a work visa to work in the US. So you're more than welcome to ask the recruiters if they're open to sponsorship. Some of them might be open to sponsoring you and for you to work in the US. So if they're open to sponsorship, that's fine. They could sponsor you and then you could take on that new opportunity. But if they are not, you could always just thank them for their time, add them on LinkedIn, and let them know that they could always keep and touch base with you in the future, or you can keep in touch with them if your situation changes and you feel it's the right time for you to start pursuing other opportunities in the States.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Anaya. Olumide, could you please unmute your mic and ask your question?
Thank you. Thanks, Kimi, for your presentation tonight. It's such an eye-opener. But I would like to ask you a question directly. You said you are going to consider people that have their resume on Indeed before you consider other people. Why will you want to do this? I mean, I just want to know your opinion as a recruiter. And also, I'm job searching at the moment, and I'm outside Toronto, and most of the jobs I see are presently in Toronto. do you think it's a good idea to change my address to an address in Toronto so I could be considered for these job roles? And the third one is, okay, you already mentioned, spoken just now about a cover letter. I'm just going to ask, a cover letter still a supporting tool in applying for jobs? Thank you.
Yes. So starting from cover letters, yeah, cover letters are great. You should use a cover letter. I know most of the online applications that I've done in the past require you to have a cover letter. Secondly, it depends on where you are located. If you're looking for work in Toronto and you're not currently here, if you have an address in Toronto you can use, that's fine. You could use that address. You can put Toronto, Ontario. The only downside is if you're really far away, if you think you can organize and come down here for an interview between, let's say the recruiter gives you a week, you can make it down here for an interview. You could do that as well. But if you cannot come down here in this, let's say in a week, I recommend you put your current location, just adding open to relocation on there, and you could do virtual interviews. The good thing is at this point, they're all doing virtual interviews. Nobody's doing face-to-face interviews. So you can just put Toronto, Ontario on your resume right now because everything is virtual, and then you can go from there. The last thing is for the Indeed. I recommend you have your resume on Indeed. The reason why I go on Indeed first is because the roles I feel, they are much difficult. They are not normal roles that people just apply for. So having your resume on Indeed is fine. I'm not saying every recruiter would go on Indeed to search for resumes. I go on Indeed because my roles are practically different from the roles that other people would fill on a daily basis. So have your resume on Indeed, somebody find you, and alongside you apply on Indeed as well, or do job applications through the company.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. E Squared. I like that name, by the way. Mrs. E Square, are you there?
Hello? Okay, yeah. Good day, Kimi. Thanks very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
So my question has to do with I've been on a particular role for a very long time, say like 10 years, and most of the opportunities I see, they might not really fit into my job role. So how do I tailor my resume so as to be able to attract the recruiters for them to call me? And my second question, presently I've not relocated to Canada, but how do I, and I don't know when due to this COVID pandemic. So is it best time for me to start submitting resumes?
Do you have plans of coming soon?
Immediately after the airport is opened, and although my co-PR expired because of the pandemic, so we're expecting that we'll resolve all those issues with IRCC.
Okay, that's fine. So yeah, you're more than welcome to start applying for work, but the basic challenge is I know the borders will be open soon enough, and I know some people can start taking international flights. So yes, you're more than welcome to start applying for work in Canada. And then once you do get hired, you could always book a ticket and come. So that's the first question. The second question was, what job do you currently do? And what are you trying to apply for?
Okay, I'm presently a marketer in a bank.
Okay.
And customer service role and financial advisor.
Okay, so what kind of roles are you trying to apply for?
I mean customer service and financial advisor. So, and although I don't have certificates for that financial advisor.
Okay, so you're trying to apply for customer service and financial advisor opportunities?
Yes.
Okay, but now you do marketing in the bank, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So as a marketer, you could always do, on your resume, you could always put marketing/customer service. Because I know it's basically the same skills that you need as a marketer for customer service as well. They're basically transferable skills. As a marketer, you need people skills. You need excellent communication skills. So whatever you do as a marketer can be transferred into being a financial advisor. Financial advisor, you talk to people on a daily basis. You sit with them. You advise them on their finances. So marketing, you're going out there, you're trying to bring in new clients. Financial advising and customer service is basically the same thing. All you need to do is, on your resume, you might have marketing right now. You can just put marketing/customer service on your resume, and that should get you a job as a financial advisor. Because as a financial advisor as well, you need to sell. You need to be able to sell and bring new clients into the company.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we still have a couple of people that need to ask questions. I will indulge everyone here for an extra 5 minutes because we actually waited 5 minutes to start the session. Please, I want to accommodate as many questions as possible. Rita, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Kimi, you said something about not having headers and footers on our resume. So on my resume, I have, okay, under the footer side, there I'm replicating my name, my contact details, my email address. So are you saying that should not be on the resume?
Okay.
My first question, yeah.
Repeating, so we've already seen your name on the first page. So we don't need to see your name on the second page or on the third page of your resume. So the only reason why I don't recommend having headers and footers, I, as a person, I can go through your resume if you're handing your resume to me, right? But because your resume is going through a computer system, you don't know what problems or what glitches that computer system may have. It's just easier to keep your resume as simple as possible so that it doesn't get lost because you have headers and footers or you have tables on your resume. So if you're giving somebody a hard copy of your resume, headers and footers can be fine. But if it's going to go through an applicant tracking system, no, don't have headers and footers on your resume.
Okay, thank you. Another question. So when I moved to Canada, I took about a 10-month break because I had a baby, and so I had a long unemployment period between when I came and when I started working again. Okay, and so during that time, I took some courses and the rest. But the current role is a part-time role because I still needed time to adjust. But now I'm trying to transition into a full-time role. So based on your comment about job hopping, do you think I fall into that role? Because the part-time role was for me to just take off time, still have the flexibility of being able to take care of my little baby. But now I'm ready for a full-time role. So do you think it is advisable for me now to start searching, and what kind of response would I give to a recruiter that asks me a question?
Okay. So you were on a 10-month mat leave because you had the baby, which is fine. So you can always say that off the back when the recruiter does ask you why you have that gap on your resume. Ideally, what I would recommend is you put in that gap and you put on the side maternity leave. That way they already know. So the other part is you have a part-time job. You're perfectly okay. If it's not related to what you're looking for, you can completely omit it from your resume. All you just need to know is explain that you were mat leave for this period of time. You took some training, you took some courses, and you also worked on the side, but it's not related to what you're looking for. And then the recruiter should be fine with that. So omit it from your resume if it's not related. I always tell people, don't put customer service on your resume when you're looking for work in project management. So remove any job that is not related to what you're looking for. Just explain it if you must to the recruiter, and that should be okay.
Thank you.
Zaza, please ask your question. Please, one question per person, I think, so that we can get in as much as possible. Zaza, please ask your question. One question, please.
Okay. Sorry. Good evening. You said we should consider those that have their resumes on LinkedIn first. So I wanted to know, what do you mean by having a resume on LinkedIn? Is it like uploading it or just filling it in your profile?
No, so I mean Indeed. So normally you can have an Indeed account as a candidate. So if you go on Indeed, Indeed lets you register as a candidate and you can have your resume uploaded on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking of LinkedIn, sorry.
No,
Okay.
LinkedIn already shows your work history, so LinkedIn is fine. That's a snapshot of what you've done anyways.
All right, thank you.
Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Kimi, for this nice presentation. And I must say I'm happy and blessed to be here. I have many questions, but I think for time constraint, I'll just ask one that is agitating my mind. What should be the ideal length of a cover letter?
1 page.
Just 1 page?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
What should be included in cover letter?
Sorry?
What could be included inside the cover letter?
If you know exactly who you're addressing the cover letter to, so you put the person's name, you put their work location, and then you put your work experience, what you've done, highlight your skills, and then you just date it at the end, and then you can submit that.
Okay.
I always put just my summary on it. Okay.
Sorry, can Ibukun Oluwa please ask a question? Ibukun Oluwa.
Hi everyone, good evening.
Hello.
Hi Kimi, thank you for this session. My question is, you were talking about irrelevant experience being added and all that. And I think I was chasing my kids when you were addressing the issue about those of us transitioning, transitioning role into other fields and things like that. How do we then prove? Let me use my institution. Like I was to IT back home. I basically ran my own business, consultancy, and all that. And now I'm trying to transition into cybersecurity and a little bit of project management and all that. So I have just a little bit of experience in project management, but none in cybersecurity. So in that kind of situation, how do we then present our resumes such that we don't appear like we don't have any experience at all? Thank you.
Okay, so the other question was a little bit different. So she was on mat leave and she was doing something on the side to support, but she's trying to go back to her field. That's understandable. But if you're transitioning from one career path to the next, yes, if you've done 10 years of work experience as an IT professional, that's fine. You can put that on your resume. All we need to see is you can transfer some of those skills into whatever career path you're choosing next. So if you've done a job for 3 months, 6 months, where you're trying to feed the family, you shouldn't put it on your resume if it's not related at all. But if you've been on that position for 10 years and you're transitioning, for sure, put it on your resume. Focus on what you can learn in cybersecurity that you could add onto your resume. And then leverage the IT skills that you've had in the past when you do interviews. But don't take off your multiple work experiences because you're transitioning from one career path to the next.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. We still have a couple of questions. I would ask that the members that have questions reach out to me on Telegram. I'm UN on the group. And I will make sure that your questions get to Kimi and I will forward the answers back to you. It has been a very informative session and we have actually even gone a bit overboard the time we actually planned. I do hope on behalf of NIPCA that this session was very informative to each and every one of you. There are questions, people are asking about access to Kimi and all of that. NIPCA will address all that. and we will, communicate that to members in the group as well, trying to keep things organized. So without further ado, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening, giving NIPCA your time. And we hope that, like I said earlier on, this session was really informative to you and provided a lot of answers to questions or doubts you might have. Without anything else, I want to, close the session and wish everyone a good evening or good night, as the case may be.